Tarot lovers, this is Maje, this is your Tarotpolitan community host. And today we are going to have a look at Pope Francis and the future of the Roman Catholic Church. Pope Francis has passed away Monday, Easter Monday, 21st of April 2025. And his pass away marks an end of his papacy, but the beginning of a new one. So today we are going to look at the symbolism of his death and who is going to be the new Pope for the Roman Catholic Church. Is that Pope going to carry on with Pope Francis' legacy? And many other questions that I'm gonna put on the table for this reading. We know the Roman Catholic Church, this event is very important because the Roman Catholic Church got a global reach. He's definitely the Pope of the Tarot. He represents that person. So in the symbolism, around the symbolism of his death, he has passed away in a very symbolic day, which is Monday Easter, which marked the middle of the spring, when resurrection, the spring revival, rebirth, all these energies are around. Then also a Monday is dedicated to the goddess, Selene, Luna, all these goddesses. So it marks also like some sort of femininity there. And the moon has been waning, going from Capricorn to Aquarius. And Aquarius, we know that we are going into the new Aquarius era. That could be interpreted as there is a new era coming for the church. The numerology for this day, Monday 21st of April 2025, is 7, and 7 coming from 16. 7 is represented by the chariot, and 16 is represented by the tower. I would say that with that numerology, Pope Francis in his papacy, he obviously tried to accomplish his goal in the church. And I would say that the church actually, they choose him, I would say, to go back to the roots of the church. That's why Jorge, his original name, when he became Pope, he changed it for Francis. And Francis because of San Francesco of Assisi. And San Francesco of Assisi is I think one of the only saints that I have is in my pantheon. Is the only one, because San Francesco of Assisi, he came from a very, I would say, like a wealthy merchant family in Italy. But he renounced all that and he became a monk. And he were looking after animals, and there is a bit of polemic around him because he was married with a nun, or he had a relationship with a nun, criticized for hundreds and hundreds of years, but in the end they make him some sort of hero, because he looked after the poor, he looked after the animals, and he had a bit of a more opening mindset around church, with male and females forming part of the community. And this Pope took his name, the first Pope that took the name of Francis because of San Francesco of Assisi. And I think with the numerology that we have seen, I think Pope Francis, he tried really to keep on with his agenda, with what he wanted to do in the church. And I think he made a change. I'm sorry for other people who think that, this Pope was better or that Pope. If you look at the history of popes, I think Pope Francis has been one of the popes that have kept more close to the New Testament, to the Gospels. And I'm gonna remind you, especially for the detractors of Pope Francis, that if you are detracting this Pope, you haven't read the Gospel. And I'm gonna remind you all of when Jesus went to the temple and he got a rage of the merchants, just money, merchant, selling. And Jesus, he was outraged and he threw all these merchants out of the temple. Remember that for the detractors. Another coincidence is Pope Francis. The day of his death, it comes to the number 7 from 16. And another coincidence is he died at 88 years of age. This is a double 8. And another double 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. And 16, 1 and 6 is 7. So we come back to this tower and then the chariot. I really believe that Pope Francis really wanted to break through with many things, many toxic things that they were far away from what Jesus was teaching, and the symbols, the emblematic symbols, and the, let's say, the Christic consciousness that the church has been very far away from it. I recommend you to watch the Borgias. This is when we have had a Spanish Pope. I recommend you to watch the Medicis. There is a nice, a beautiful serial on Netflix called the Medicis, and you're gonna see that the popes through history, they were, I don't gonna say names here, but none of them were as, I would say, as Pope Francis. Pope Francis really, he wanted to go back to the roots of Christianity. And I would say that even that I'm not religious, that I thankful Pope Francis for that. Another thing is monotheism, in my opinion. When I was at university, my dissertation was about religious symbols in contemporary art. And I have been to the Vatican, I have been to Rome and the Vatican, I have been to St. Peter's Cathedral, and I also have been to San Francesco of Assisi monastery, a beautiful monastery. And I did a comparison. I was just a teenager when I went there, but I always was questioning the St. Peter, the Vatican, because when you go to St. Peter, I have been like 30 years ago, but it was very impressive. La Pietà de Michelangelo, the artwork, the red carpets, the chandeliers, it was amazing, it was astonishing. But when you look San Francesco de Assisi, Francis of Assisi Monastery, and you see his attire intact there with all the patchwork on top of patchwork on top of patchwork, that simplicity, that going back to the roots, that going back to not needing much to be happy, to be self-sufficient, to help others. This is, for me, was very impressive. Let's have a look also at this symbol that I have here. This is an early Christian symbol that it got the 4 crosses and the central cross, and it got the half moon on top. That currently is a Muslim symbol, but in early Christianity, the half moon was a Christian symbol as well. This monotheistic religion, they have taken symbols from each other. We are constantly inspire each other and getting from each other. And one thing I also gonna say is, I don't think any monotheistic religion will do anything for an equanimity between female and males inside the church or outside the church. I don't think there will be any improvements on gay marriage or anything like that. And I don't think there will be even an improvement on divination, because you guys know, all the Abrahamic religions prohibit my work, prohibit that you check astrology to divine the future, or tarot cards, or anything like that. You using your intuition to foresee a potential event, it has always been prohibited by these religions. If we look at mythology and ancient religions and polytheistic religions or spirituality, they are more open about that. They see the importance of being intuitive, of working with your intuition, of foreseeing certain events. And I don't think the church will change on any of that. That's why I'm not religious, because I see a lot of manipulation. Because if they take from you the power of consulting, yes, consulting your energies, consulting your present, the potential of the future, what is happening, I think you are restricted. You leave it in God's hands, no? You are kind of like, you don't have free will. Okay, now say that, let's shuffle the cards and let's see Pope Francis' legacy and who is going to be the next Pope. Okay, so in the opening, to see the overall energy of this reading for Pope Francis and the Roman Catholic Church, we have the Hanged One, the Six of Swords, and the Emperor. The overall energy seems to be that Pope Francis really wanted to change a lot of things inside an institutionalized church. Things were stagnated in the church. There is no, maybe it's growing in Africa, maybe it's growing in another, in another regions of the world, but it seems like the church was very much going through a process that it was stuck with many things, and also the scandals, the abuse of children, all those things. And I think Pope Francis really wanted to move forward, like this need to change, we need to do these things different. But I would say, seeing the Emperor here, the Emperor is somebody who used the symbol, but he's not the Pope. He used the symbol, he got power, he got authority. That's why it's important that we look at the history of kings, emperors, and popes, because this is here in the tarot. And you will understand these dynamics of power. And it's funny enough, this year is a year 9, but a year 9 that comes from the 5 and the 4, from 54, the Pope and the Emperor. I would say that Pope Francis got a lot of antagonism with certain powers that they didn't like. The Emperor is somebody who dictates. They didn't like how the Pope Francis was trying to move forward with the church. And the total number here is 12, and 16 is 18, 2022, the double 2. Information, checking, and then the double 2 is the Emperor. We're going again here. I think Pope Francis could have done a lot more in his papacy if it wasn't for this Emperor, for these powers that they are behind the church, that they move the church, and especially in powers that they use the church, or they use the symbol of the church for another gain. So say that, now let's have a look at Pope Francis' legacy. What Pope Francis wanted to do the most, what he wanted to achieve. We have a Fool, a 7 of Wands, and the Ace of Wands. I think Pope Francis, and the total number here is 7 and 1, 8, the strength or the justice. I think we are looking with the Marseille Tarot is the justice. Pope Francis knew that the church was having a lot of conflicts, internal conflicts, external conflicts, a lot of problems. Another thing that Pope Francis, his purpose, his something that he really wanted to do was about refugees, because Le Mat, or the Fool, is somebody who is a traveler, is somebody who is exiled, maybe. So Pope Francis really wanted, or make sure that the church do something, or at least being vocal about how refugees are treated, and because of wars, because of displacements, because of many other things. And Pope Francis was very determined about that. Of course, he found a lot of antagonists with his goals, with his purpose. He found a lot of problems. And let's see what Pope Francis found along his papacy, how he felt that his work, or how he felt by the end of it, with his work. Pope Francis got a very good sense of humor. He did have a very good sense of humor, and here we have the 9 of Cups, the Ace of Cups, and the 5 of Pentacles, and the number here is 9, 10, 15, the devil. There was a lot of things inside the church, as in many other, any religion, any of those hierarchical, institutionalized religions, they have a lot of dark secrets. And they have a lot of things that Pope Francis was trying, I think, to work with them or against them or something. One thing that maybe Pope Francis was also very attracted to the Holy Grail. The Ace of Cups represents the Holy Grail, represents also the feminine. But having this here is to bring back, having the Fool here and the Ace of Cups is about to bring back the people who has been displaced, to bring them back home, the people who has been pushed away. Oh, you are this, you are that, you're not welcome here. So the Pope Francis, one thing I think that he achieved is to brought back people to the church that before they have been refused or rejected. But in other things, especially with the sexual scandals, because the Ace of Wands is got a lot of sexual connotations, I think he really struggled, and he really struggled also with the power of the church over material things. I think Pope Francis was very upset that the church has become so attached to material things, and he wanted to go back to the roots. You know, with the Fool, it's like going back to basics, having a more simple life. And let's see also how currently the church is seeing Pope Francis' legacy. We can see here with the Page of Swords, the King of Cups, and the Judgment, and the 4 of the King is 24, and 24 is 6, the Lovers. There is inside the church a lot of criticism, but look, criticism that I would say like it doesn't weight up the support that he got inside the church. I would say that there is many other cardinals, priests, and everything, because the king is many people who supported legacy. There is also criticism, especially where the welcoming of certain people to the church, because you know, we know that there is branches and people who follow a more hard and a more intolerant way of faith and religion. There will be a lot of debate and analysis inside the church in the coming weeks. Apart of that, we got the conclave. We got this voting of the new papacy and the white smoke and the dark smoke, and the selection of the Pope, choosing of the Pope. I would say, like, because this got the number 6, and the number 6 is 3-3, it can be seen as 3-3. I think here is 50-50. I think there is definitely detractors of his legacy, but it seems to be to me that the ones who care about Pope Francis' legacy, they are quite prominent and quite strong. Stronger, obviously, a king is stronger than the pain. But there is still will be a lot of debate. Now, let's have a look at who is going to be the next Pope. Oh, we got Pope John. Okay, we have the Ten of Swords, the High Priestess, La Papesse, the female Pope. And we have the Two of Wands, and it's the number 14, 14-7. I would say that the next person is very close to Pope Francis. I would say so. We are going to have a Pope no longer than 2 months from now. From the beginning of May, I would say around 2 months to have a Pope. But what is very funny, La Papesse. I think the next Pope, having the Popess here, or the High Priestess, I would say that the Pope that is coming, it doesn't look very masculine. It's not the typical Pope with a lot of hair and beard. It looked quite feminine to me. And it reminds me the legend that we have checked for those films about Pope John, J-O-A-N. I think I'm gonna try to leave a link But if you can watch that movie, it's amazing. There is many things in the Roman Catholic Church that prove that this could have been true, that there was a female disguised as a man that became a pope. And after that, after they discovered that this pope was actually a female, after 4,000 years, when the pope, when they choose the pope, they have to seat the pope in a special throne, and underneath they will touch the pope's genital to see if he was actually a male. I will put there the link to the Pope John, and you will see it because it's amazing. But it's funny that we have the popess. So for me, the next pope will be, it look more feminine or it look more delicate. It doesn't look very masculine to me. I think the next pope is going to be definitely somebody, I would say, if it doesn't change, because you know some people, they start in one way and they end in a completely different way, or the opposite. And we have seen it with technocrats, we have seen it with politicians, with authors, with many people. But I have a pope that is very aware of the problems, the scandals, the criticism that whether the church already have, or whether the criticism that Pope Francis have received. But I would say that this pope comes from a fraction that is supporting of Pope Francis. And this pope is also a pope that comes to clean, to see to clean the church, to see a future that is slightly more like a rebirth in the church. I wouldn't say that they're gonna change drastically the church. I don't think so. But at least still like a cleanup that Pope Francis started already. Will this new pope carry on in that more truthful or more original way of the church than in previous papacies? Will he carry on with that? All cups, and we have the King of Cups here. We have the Queen of Cups, the Page of Cups, and the Seven of Cups. 7 and 3 is 10, is the Wheel of Fortune. I think this Pope will, and definitely seeing all the cups here in the Ace of Cups before, I think the new Pope will carry on with Pope Francis' legacy. In the sense of, the main goal will be of connecting with people. The cups are about that, are about people, are about connections, are about trusting each other, enjoying each other's company. Communion. One more thing, which antagonist will the new Pope have facing in his papacy? We have the three of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the Justice. This Ace of Swords match with the criticism and the scandals of the past, or the present, because they are still happening, but scandal, criticism, justice, and the total is the number 12, the Hanged One, punishment. I think the new Pope, really, if he wants to succeed, he's gonna have to be harder on the punishment for the abuse that the church has committed to children, or whether also from external and internal criticism of this way of the church of becoming more for the people rather than the opulence that the church is being always showing, no? This opulence. I think the new Pope is gonna try to carry on with Pope Francis, definitely. And the problems he's gonna find is that, or whether he really need to take care of the scandals, and he's gonna find a lot of criticism from the fractions that they want a more intolerant and strict type of church. We have come at the end of this reading. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Pope Francis? What do you think about the Roman Catholic Church and its future? Who could be the new Pope ahead? What could be the legacy, or what could be the purpose or the goals of the new Pope? And I remind you all that we're having a live stream on Monday, 12th of May, answering all of your questions. So if you are around at 8 p.m. UK time, I will be live for you answering any burning question that you may have. Also, if you can make it, go to my channel, to the live stream, subscribe, and leave your question if you can make it, because if I see your name and your question and where you calling from, where you asking from, then I will be happy to put your question in the live stream. So say that, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for liking, for subscribing, for commenting, and I see you all in the next video. Bye.